we welcome everybody's participation in that event. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce our guest speaker for the evening. Dr. Kristin Bakkegard is known to many already on the call, and she is a professor at Samford University. She has a PhD from Utah State University. She has a master's from Auburn University and Boston University. At Auburn, she studied the Red Hills salamanders, various aspects of the Red Hills salamander and their life history. She is a retired captain in the U.S. Navy with 30 years of experience there, and having just recently passed Veterans Day, we certainly salute her and appreciate and thank her for her service. Tonight, she's going to talk to us about spiders. Just a few days late for a Halloween talk, but that's all right. We're going to hear her speak about the spiders of Alabama. And Kristin, if you're ready, we'll be glad to turn this over to you to start sharing your screen. For those, if you can, thank you for everybody for muting during the talk. Feel free to post questions in the chat room, and we'll address them, and we'll also take questions at the end of the talk. Dr. Bakkegard, turning it over to you.
All right. Can everybody see and hear me?
Hear you very clear, and it looks like to me there's even some captioning going on. So that's cool.
Yes, that's a little disconcerting, but that's okay. Okay, good. Everything. Make sure my mouse is working here. All right. Good evening, everyone. The spiders would have been great for Halloween, but I had some other things on my schedule, so wasn't able to participate in October. So here we are in November. That's kind of the closest we could do. Let me see if I can move that there. Okay, that will help. All right, so what I want to do tonight is just kind of talk about some of the spiders of Alabama, because we don't have all night to talk about all of the spiders. So I've kind of picked out some of the ones that we commonly see. There's some of these spiders that might be in your house right now. So let's kind of talk, and we're going to set all of our spiders into context first. So we are talking about animals in the phylum Arthropoda, and Arthropoda just means joint foot. This is the largest phylum in the animal kingdom. And in fact, one of every 4 animals on the planet happens to be a beetle, which is also an arthropod. So it's hugely economically important, and we share our planet with lots and lots of arthropods. So when I do arthropods in invertebrate zoology, I have to spread it out over about 5 lectures to get all of them in. So within the phylum Arthropoda, there are 5 subphyla. The trilobites, and those are all extinct. There's the myriapods, and that composes the millipedes and the centipedes. There's the crustacea, and that's a very huge group, and there's bunches of orders and suborders. And the crustaceans that we're most familiar with are the decapods, our crayfish, our crab, our shrimp. We like to eat all of those. The hexapods, which includes the insects. And then our group that includes our spiders is the chelicerates. And within the chelicerata, that's our horseshoe crabs, our sea spiders, and then our arachnids. So here is kind of a family tree of all of the arthropods, and it shows you, do you guys see my little arrow? Okay, good. Since we don't have a laser tonight. But within all of the hexapods, this is essentially a family tree, and it kind of shows you where they are in context with everything else, is that they're a fairly old group on the planet. They've been around a really, really long time. And within the arachnids, all these organisms here in the green box are all different types of arachnids. So spiders are just one subgroup within there. And the spiders are down here in the Araneae, and their closest cousins are these things, these Europygids, which we call whip scorpions, which we don't have any here in Alabama. And the amblypygids, which we don't have here in Alabama either. It would be cool if we had them, but we don't. And then after that, the scorpions, and then pseudoscorpions. This group up here, this is the ticks and mites. And we've probably all had ticks at some point, and mites, that includes the chiggers. And they're related to these sun or camel spiders, which are kind of a desert creature. And we'll talk about this briefly later on, but here's the opiliones. This is the daddy longlegs. So daddy longlegs and the opiliones are often mixed up and confused with being spiders, but they're not spiders, and they're not even spiders' closest relatives. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you with this diagram. So spiders are in this group, the Chelicerata, and that's what the Chelicerata have, is they have chelicerae, and chelicerae are just the first pair of appendages next to the mouth that are used for feeding. And in spiders, they happen to be fangs associated with venom glands. But here's some others. Here's a horseshoe crab. Here's an opiliones, a daddy longlegs. You can see their chelicerae here, and they're used just for feeding, for putting things into their mouth. This is one of these sun scorpions. These are its chelicerae right here. So the spiders within the chelicerates are unique in that they have these venom glands associated with their chelicerae. And so if we kind of do a full kind of classification of them all, Arthropoda in the Chelicerata, they're in the class Arachnida. The order is the Arania, and within the Arania we have about globally 134 families, 4,000, almost 4,400 genera. And I just pulled this new number off of the World Spider Catalog today. That's the official global listing of all of our spiders. 5,200, 457 species, which was a few more than when I gave a similar talk, just 2 months ago. So we've added more spiders. And here's a nice little crab spider here that's gotten hold of a honeybee. They're great. Crab spiders are great ambush predators. So what makes a spider a spider? So they have these chelicerae that are modified into fangs, and they use that to inject the venom, and the venom is for prey capture. They have two parts to their body, and this was one of the things that distinguishes them, say, from the insects. So they have the cephalothorax, it's also called the prosoma, and then they have their abdomen, which is also called the opistosoma. They have 8 pairs of walking legs. Most of our spiders have 8 eyes, although there are some spiders with 6 eyes. They have book lungs for breathing, and they also have a slight tracheal system, but the book lung here is kind of its main organ for breathing. Spiders make silk, and they have these spinnerets, and they make silk that they use for webs. There's a wide variety, actually, of functions for silk that spiders make, although they're not the only thing that makes silk. There's some caterpillars that can also make silk as well. So there's some other things in the animal kingdom that also use silk, but it's primarily associated with spiders. Again, most have 8 eyes. There are 2 groups of spiders here in Alabama that have 6 eyes. They will put their eggs in a silken egg case. And in the world of spiders, there's sexual size dimorphism, where it's usually the females are much larger than the males. And that's just, eggs take up a lot of space. So if you're a spider trying to develop a lot of eggs, it helps to be bigger. Yeah, so that's pretty much the things that make a spider a spider. Here is some, there we go. Another kind of the second, we talked about the first pair of appendages next to the mouth being the chelicerae. The second pair of appendages in spiders are called the pedipalps, or often that's just shortened to palps. And in a lot of spiders, they almost, so here's the chelicerae here on this tarantula. This first here and here, that's actually the palps. They look kind of like legs, but they're the palps, are not legs. And they're often used for touch and kind of as a sensory touch organ. In male spiders, male spiders use their pedipalps to transfer sperm to the female. And then often they break off and are left inside of the female. And so, especially when we're in the full reproductive season for our spiders, which is often, later in the summer here in Alabama, if you see small spiders with the little boxing gloves, that's probably the male of that species. Let's see, there we go. And here's just kind of the external anatomy of a spider. We've kind of talked about some of this. So here's our cephalothorax, here's our abdomen. So the cephalothorax, this is where your legs are going to be attached to. Your abdomen, this is going to be usually softer. That's where all the reproductive organs are, most of the digestive organs. The spinnerets is where the silk is produced in our spider. And then these are just terms for all the different segments of the legs. We got eyes up front, and here's our chelicerae up here. When you're IDing spiders, besides just color pattern and body shapes, eye pattern is also an important character that's used for spiders to identify different groups of spiders, especially down to the family level. So if you're taking pictures of spiders, you're trying to identify spiders, it kind of helps to get a good close-up view of their face. And there's some terminology here associated with their eyes, and this was just a graphic that I found, and I put the green box around those families of spiders that are found here in Alabama. But they all have fairly different eye patterns to them, and especially characteristic are things like our jumping spiders, our salticity, our lycosids, which are our wolf spiders that have this kind of one set of eyes almost on the back and the top here. These net casting spiders have, these really big front looking eyes. And then things like this spitting spider, this is one of our two groups of spiders that has 6 eyes instead of 8. And so if you're into spiders, it helps to kind of learn, at least get a general idea of what their eye patterns are, and what kind of their faces look like. So this is not a spider. This is our opiliones, or daddy long legs, granddaddy long legs. The Europeans like to call them harvestmen because they are found in great numbers in the fall when people were traditionally working the fields and doing the harvest. They're also found globally. And the things that make a opilionid different than a spider is that they have one kind of big glob for a body. Their abdomen and their cephalothorax have actually kind of been merged and fused together. And so you've got a globular body, but we still have our 8 legs. It's a chelicerate, so it still has its chelicerae, but they don't have any venom glands and they don't have any silk glands. What I think many of us were taught as children is that, opiliones or daddy long legs are super venomous, but their mouth parts are so small they can't bite us. Who learned that one as a kid? They don't have any venom glands at all. So our parents led us astray, or somebody did once upon a time. And these guys are either scavengers. There are some in this group that are predatory as well. But they're actually a pretty interesting group. Probably where the myth of daddy longlegs being venomous came from. There is a spider there's a whole family of spiders called the Pholcidae, which is probably one you have in your garage or under your house right now. They also have the common name of daddy long legs. So that might be where that came from, is that we have animals sharing the same common names and things just kind of get mixed up. Here's the basic life cycle of a spider. So you start off with eggs, and they're going to be in a silken egg sac. And sometimes they're attended by the female. This is a wolf spider. Her eggs are in here. And she's going to carry her egg sac around with her because wolf spiders don't make webs. Here are the spiky egg cases of a brown widow spider. So if you've got egg sacs in a corner in a super messy web and they're spiky looking, you've got brown widow spiders. But these eggs are going to hatch out and you're going to have a spiderling. And one of the means of dispersal for a young spider is to just put a thread of silk up and the wind is going to catch it and they're going to get carried away. That's called ballooning. So we all saw that in Charlotte's Web. I think most of us saw that movie once upon a time. So ballooning is kind of the primary mechanism by which many spiders disperse. We do have some spiders, and I'll show you a picture later, where once they hatch out, then they hop onto mom's back, and that's what wolf spiders tend to do. And so I've got a photo of a wolf spider that is 100% covered with her little spiderlings. And so they'll stay on her back roughly until their first molt, and then they'll just crawl off into the grass and disperse. As a juvenile, they're going to eat. They're going to grow through a series of instars, and each time they're going to molt, because being an arthropod, you have an exoskeleton. And in order to grow, your skin is on the inside of that exoskeleton. You have to get rid of your old exoskeleton, put down a new one that's larger, and then you essentially grow into that. And so our young spiders are going to go through a series of molts. They will become sexually mature. Many spiders have courtship behaviors. So the male approaches and has a series of behaviors in which it's going to approach a female spider. It's going to transfer sperm via that pedipalp. And after that, it's pretty much done in the process. And here is a golden silk spider. She's busy having a snack. This is the male. And in this group of spiders, they have very extreme form of sexual size dimorphism. But this is the male here, and this is the female. Here's a photo I found from Indobugs. This shows the molting process. This is a green lynx spider. So if you look at, you just find a spider web, like one sitting in a corner in your house or outside, and you see what looks like a little ghost in there. You're not looking at a dead spider, you're looking at a molt. And so it's molted, it's left its exoskeleton behind in its web. And then it's now a little bit bigger and a little bit farther along in its developmental processes. So sometimes you see that, especially like this, just a ghost of itself, and that's its old exoskeleton. Spiders make silk. It's just a fibrous protein. Goes through a series of glands. This is one of our orb weaving spiders that we have around here. You can see the silk coming out, and they'll often pull it out and manipulate it with their legs. But they use that. They have the organ, the spinnerets, with a series of small tubes, large tubes. And these are all the functions that they use silk for. So make a web, build an egg sac. A lot of our spiders, especially like our garden spiders, a fly will fly into their web. They will run to it. They will quickly wrap it with silk, and then they bite it. So essentially, they immobilize the prey item with their silk before they bite it. We do have some spiders that will bite first, like our golden silk spider will bite first, and then it will wrap its prey in the silk. So they do have a variety of kind of strategies that they use. It just depends on how they want to handle dangerous prey. Like if a wasp gets into your web, it's always a possibility the spider could get stung. Again, ballooning for dispersal, especially if you're a juvenile spider, and drag lines. Even a lot of our spiders that don't make webs, things like jumping spiders, they'll put down a thread and then they'll go jump. And so if they miss their jump or somehow get knocked off, they can just go back up that thread line. So kind of like putting a little safety line out if you're going to jump from one place to another. So all of our spiders, except for one, are carnivorous, and spiders eat other spiders, other insects. There's a lot of our large tropical spiders that will take down small frogs, small snakes. If they can kill it, then they'll kind of eat it. But there's a wide variety in webs. That's kind of one of the primary mechanisms for prey capture for spiders. But we do have a series of spiders that don't make webs at all. They just go and ambush or actively hunt and search for prey items. And there is one jumping spider that's found in Mexico and Central America. It eats these little nutritious bodies that are made from acacia plants. And these little yellow little protein packages from these plants are called Belgian bodies, and they actually use them. The plant also uses them to feed the ants. There's usually an ant that's associated with these plants as well too. And these jumping spiders seem to eat them as well. But other than this, there's always one in every group that has to be different. Otherwise, our spiders are carnivorous. Spiders also have lots of predators. So here's a little skink. Here is a Carolina wren. So birds, lizards all eat lots and lots of spiders. There's a lot of insects like wasps that prey upon spiders. They will often sting the spider, which paralyzes it. They'll take it back to a nest. This is in a lot of our solitary nesting wasps. They lay an egg on it. This egg hatches out into the little larval wasp, which now has still living spider to eat. Our mud daubers do that. So you can break open a mud dauber nest, and depending on the species, you're going to see a bunch of spiders in there, or we have a bunch of wasps that will also kind of do the same thing and collect caterpillars. So not always easy to be a spider. And we also have some spiders out there that are mimics of other things. So here's an ant, and most people don't mess with ants because they sting. And here's a nifty, there's a whole family of spiders that are just called the ant mimic spiders. And here's an example of one here. So we're going to kind of transition and talk about some of the common spiders that we find here in Alabama. If you go just on iNaturalist, I just pulled up kind of the species that we have here in Alabama, and this is the 20 most commonly recorded ones. And so things like yellow garden spiders and golden silk spiders are certainly they're large spiders and they're conspicuous, so people are going to put them on iNaturalist. Spiny-backed orb weavers, gosh, late summer, these things are everywhere. These spotted orb weavers, these are going to be making the webs at night. You come out at night, there's a huge orb web, big spider in the middle of it. We'll talk about all of these guys later. Jumping spiders, everybody likes jumping spiders because they're cute. Green lynx spiders, this is probably one of my favorite spiders. And so we'll talk about pretty much most of these as we go along. But these are the 20 most common ones and that are observed. And again, there's always observation bias. You see things that you think are cool or that are big and conspicuous, and those things end up on iNaturalist first. But my rough estimate, just playing on iNaturalist, so we have about 37 different families of spider in Alabama and about 341 to about 350 different species of spiders here just in Alabama. So we're just going to talk about some of these. Yep. Okay. Talk about some of these spiders. This is the ravine trapdoor spider. We have them in the Homewood Forest Preserve. And the best way to go find them is with a leaf blower, because their entrances to their burrows, especially if the little lid is closed, are next to impossible to see. So you can take a leaf blower out there and it'll flip these lids up. And then the spider is down in there, and they'll make pretty good burrows, 6 or 8 inches into the soil. And they can use they have this textured abdomen that actually they think they can use this as a plug so that predators cannot get down into their burrow. And they'll lay their eggs and make their egg sac down into their burrow. And this is a pretty good sized spider. They're out at Oak Mountain State Park too. I've seen them out there. We have another group that's also related to that first one, the wafer trapdoor spiders. These guys made the news, I don't know, about 5-ish, maybe 7 years ago, because there was a few more new species of them that were discovered here in Alabama, like the Auburn tiger trapdoor spider. But these are part of a large and old, kind of ancient lineage of spiders. They're more closely related to the tarantulas than, say, our orb weaving spiders. I've got lots of these at my Red Hill salamander site, and many of these also make burrows as well. And they can look pretty impressive when they're upset. This is kind of our next big group of spiders. These are more of our modern spiders, and most spiders are in this group. This is kind of within the world of spiders, there's 3 major subgroups. The first subgroup's only a couple species, and it's in New Zealand. The second group I just showed to you, they have fangs that go stabby, stabby. And then this is our biggest group of spiders, and the thing that distinguishes them is that their fangs go kind of pinchy, pinchy. So here's our garden spider, here's a wolf spider, here's a wolf spider here. And so we're just going to go through some of these families. My mouse is not being very sensitive tonight. And I think I just organized them alphabetically. So this is the Agelmidas. This is the funnel web weavers. And if you see a sheet-like web, either in the grass, or sometimes you see these big sheet webs with a funnel retreat at the end out in the woods. Our shrubbery all over campus has these little just sheet webs in it. It's from this spider, and there's roughly 20 or so species of them, of this Agelenopsis here in Alabama, and I've yet to find anything that easily distinguishes them from each other. So it might be one of these groups of spiders that there's some microscopic characters that you have to use to tell different species apart. So basically they just get identified as Agelenopsis. Getting them down to a specific species is much more difficult than that. So we see these commonly in across a lot of our habitats here in Alabama. This is the Araenidae. This is a really big group of spiders, and this is conspicuous spiders. They make these very nice classic orb webs that we think about when we think about spiders. This is probably one of my favorite ones. This is the marbled orb weaver. It's a beautiful spider. And actually this is 2 different individuals. You can see they have slightly different patterns here. But the orange abdomen, and we've got the stripy legs, and they come out at night. The best way to find them is that you'll just find an abandoned web during the day, and usually September, October is when I most easily find this spider. But you'll find a web during the day, there's nobody in it, and then you start looking up to the corners and you follow the strands up and you find a curled up leaf, It might have some silk around there, and you just kind of peel that open, and the spider is hanging out in there. So they'll come out at night and tend their webs, but they'll hide during the day to avoid their own predators. You know, they're pretty brightly colored, so they'd be fairly conspicuous to a bird. But this is one of my favorites. I like this spider. It's pretty. It's very fall and pumpkin-y. Oops. Here's our black and yellow garden spider, sometimes called the writing spider, the Charlotte's Web spider. But they put this zigzag pattern into their web, and it's called the stabilimentum. And for juveniles, it's kind of more of a patch. For the adults, it's a little more linear. And there's kind of two hypotheses for what the stabilimentum in these spider webs are for. One is that it serves somehow to attract prey. And the second is that it somehow discourages birds from flying through their web. Those are the two hypotheses as to why this spider has a stabilimentum in its web. And both of those hypotheses, I think, would be fairly challenging to test under field conditions. I mean, how do you tell the bird, hey, go fly that way? But these are large conspicuous spiders. There was a lot of them this summer down on the Greenway, especially that new section. I found, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 of these down there this fall. Here's our spiny-backed orb weaver. It's not a particularly large spider, but they do make a fairly conspicuous web. They seem to have, I don't know, it's almost like these little bit areas of thicker section on the supporting strands, and then this nice central web. And they will stay in their web out during the day, but they're pretty spiny, and they come in lots of different colors. So you'll find white ones, you'll find yellow ones. I found this very reddish black one in the Bahamas. A long time ago, I read a paper about these guys, and somebody tried to figure out, is there a pattern between the yellow ones, white ones? What does that mean? And why are there these two different colors of them? And are there different frequencies of the colors in different types of habitats? And they didn't find any real patterns at all. So I don't think we know why they come in all these different colors. There's a arrowhead spider, or the triangulate orb weaver. I see a lot of these out in Oak Mountain State Park. They're not particularly large spider either. They're about that big, but they're fairly conspicuous, and they're nice and easy to identify. So that's in this family. This is the Neoscona. These are the ones that come out at night. You really start seeing them in September, and they'll make large webs, and they'll sit in the middle all night long. And then they also go and hide up in a retreat during the daytime. And they'll make a new web every night, and they can do it in about 45 minutes to an hour, and they'll eat their old web and kind of recycle that silk. But these guys are very conspicuous in the fall at night. So that's kind of some examples out of this family. We have another group, the Ctenidae. This is the false wolf spiders. This one I don't see very often, but we do have it here in Alabama. This is the one I see a lot over in the Homewood Forest Preserve. And they've just got this very nice kind of caramel, wavy, it's not really a stripe pattern on their abdomen, but they look very similar to wolf spiders, and they kind of do the same things as wolf spiders, but they're not. They're in a completely different family. In fact, this family they have some cousins down in Brazil that are very toxic to people. So there's banana spiders that sometimes accidentally get imported in shipments of bananas. These guys are in the same family as that group, but look kind of like wolf spiders, but they're not. And so they have different eye patterns on them. But mostly it's just like they're the only one that kind of looks like this. So none of our wolf spiders really have that sort of pattern to them. But I find that a lot of Tinus hibernalis are fairly easy to find in the late summer out in the leaf litter. This is a spider, this Lymphalidae, the sheep web and dome weavers. They're pretty small spiders. They're easiest to identify just based on their web. So here's the bowl, and here's the doily. You know, once upon a time we used to have, I think many of our grandmothers used to make doilies to be fancy on. So I'll see these around, and you just see these webs. So this is an easy spider to identify from its web because the spider itself is pretty small. And then the same one with this filmy dome. It's also in that same family. But here's the spider right here. So oftentimes you'll just see the web, and it's really hard to find the spider, but you can just ID those from their web. Here's our leucosids. Here's our wolf spiders. We have about 36 species in Alabama. Rabid wolf spider. This is the one. This is the first time. This was from this summer down at Solon-Dixon. Usually when I see a wolf spider covered with spiderlings, it's only on her abdomen. This one was 100% covered. So they will stay on her till they do their first molt, and then they will take off. But wolf spiders, they don't make webs. They're out actively hunting at night for prey items. They've got a pretty distinctive eye pattern. And yeah, in late summer, you'll find a female just covered with her little spiderlings. But if you then disturb her, then they kind of explode everywhere. Here's one. This is one of our largest ones. It's in the genus Hogna, big wolf spider. We have this one at Oak Mountain State Park, Hogna carolinensis. This one is found on the beaches of Dauphin Island, and it only lives on the beach. As soon as you start to get into the dunes where the grass is, then you get a whole nother species of wolf spider. But they live in little burrows on the beach, and you go out at night and you take your flashlight and put it up by your eyes, and you kind of eye shine for them, and you can find them. So it's a popular activity with our students when we take them to Dauphin Island. We'll go out at night and look for these spiders. And so here are all of these little dots where you can see reflecting back. Those are wolf spiders. But you've got to have your, either your headlamp up on top or a flashlight right by your eyes so you get that reflection straight back in. Here's our golden silk orb weaver. This is a very large spider. Sometimes it gets mixed up with garden spider because it's also, and because this has a common name of banana spider. It's also part of this group of the golden silk orb weavers because its web is yellowish. It's a very strong web. But these guys have tufts on their legs, and they have a much more rectangular abdomen. Here's a female, here's a male. There's really large sexual size dimorphism in this group, and usually you can find males hanging out kind of on the periphery of females' webs. Probably one of my favorite spiders. This is the lynx spider. And they're very green and they're very spiky. And she guards her egg sac and will guard them until, the frost kills her off in the fall and winter. But these guys love to hang out in flowers and in the short vegetation. They don't really make a whole lot for webs, because they just grab whatever comes to visit that flower. And usually this is how I find them, is I'll see a flower and then I'll see a bee or a wasp just kind of hanging down or hanging at a really weird angle. You're just like, hey, there's something weird going on over there. And then you go check it out, and it's usually a green lynx spider has gotten hold of something. they have no problem taking down carpenter bees. And they're just a super pretty spider. I like green lynx spiders. We found a lot of them at Limestone Park this year. I took my invert class, and we found a lot of green lynx spiders there. Red Mountain Park, where they used to have that, I guess that's still that big meadow area. There's a lot of green lynx spiders in there. Cellar spiders, you probably have these in your garage. Depending on your house cleaning skills, you might have them in your house. I think I have a few in the corner in my house. These guys also carry the common name daddy longlegs. But this is the kind of the common species that's around, this Pholcus phalangioides, long-bodied cellar spider. They're in our crawl spaces. They're in our garages. They love human habitation. We pretty much all have them in and around our houses. But kind of brownish, lots of legs, long skinny legs, make messy webs. I'm guessing everybody's seen this one. Being around creeks and streams, you're going to find our nursery web spiders. This is Dolomedes triton, the six-spotted fishing spider. They will also just stay kind of on top of the water and hunt things. And I like them. They're pretty cool. They can get a pretty good size. We have a couple species actually of Dolomedes here in the state, but this one is nice and easy to identify. You can do it, mouse. Also in this family is the nursery reb spider. And you're going to find those in fields and just kind of, fields that have a lot of flowers and vegetation and goldenrod in them. They're also ambush hunters, and the females will make an egg sac carrier with her, and then her little spiders hatch out, and then she makes a web for them. So that's where this group gets its name from, the nursery web spider. So another group of spiders besides the wolf spiders that have parental care. Here's this jumping spiders, and these guys are all going to be small, and they're all pretty fuzzy, and they have a lot of personality. There's the group of them in Australia that the males wave their pedipalps, and they're colorful, and they wiggle their abdomens. They've got dances that they do for the females. There's some great YouTube videos of the jumping spiders of Australia that where the males do those interesting courtship displays. But these guys are going to be small and fuzzy, and they jump. They're well named, and they're just little tiny ambush predators. They've got these two large eyes in front. They have very, very good vision. And sometimes some of them will also hang out in flowers and jump on things too, and take down bees. Spitting spiders, this is one of our spiders that has 6 eyes. So here's 2 eyes here, 2 eyes here, 2 eyes here. I've had spitting spiders living on the side of my house all summer this year. And they're a little bit different. They get their name because they actually spit out from their venom glands this fluid that it's both venomous and sticky onto their prey item. And so once they've spit on their prey item, then they'll go and bite it and start to suck the insides out of it. So that's where they get their name from. They look kind of like house spiders, but the eye pattern is very different. And they're usually a little bit bigger than house spiders too. But I've had these guys living on my house pretty much all summer long now. And they're still hanging in there. But that's just kind of cool. It's a little bit different mechanism of prey capture than some of our other spiders. And then the Sicaridae, this is the 6-eyed spider. That's the common name for this family. This is where brown recluse is. Here's the violin pattern. here that's on its cephalothorax. They've got a pretty nasty venom. It's hemotoxic. But they're a pretty shy spider. You disturb them, they're like, I'm out of here. And they're really small. So actually, I found this one under a rock. It was just kind of hanging out there. But it had a really nice pattern. The violin pattern on it was relatively easy to see. And then you can see it has the 6 eyes. So that's brown recluse. Has a bad reputation. This is Richard Vedder is a spider guy at UC Riverside, and he publishes a lot of papers on brown recluse, mostly being upset with medical doctors that tell people they'll come in with, red something on their skin, and the doctor will say it's a spider bite, and he's like, no, that's not a spider bite. No, it's not a brown recluse bite, because maybe you're in Montana and there's no brown recluse up there. But this is where we have a couple different species of recluse or recluse spider here in the U.S. And we've got the Loxosceles reclusa here in Alabama. And I found brown recluse spiders. Is it Cuba? These guys kind of get around. These guys are also the tetragnatha. This is the long-jawed spiders, and they have very prominent chelicerae. And so these two, they're kind of difficult to tell the species, but they're always found, at least these, the tetragnathids, near water, streams, lakes, boat docks. That's where you're going to find, usually you'll see a web, and it looks like there's a little stick in the web, and actually it's this spider here. So, and then this one is another species in this family. These are called the orchard spiders, and they're just have these really beautiful silvery cephalothorax or abdomen on them. And the kind of, I'll find them on webs kind of low to the ground, kind of waist height and below is where I'll find these spiders. They can be relatively common in our forests along our trails. So these are some of our examples of our long-jawed spiders. Theridae, that's the family for the comb-footed spiders. And so basically they've got a big blobby body and they make really messy webs. And the famous example out of this group is, this is where our black widow spiders, this is the family black widow spiders are in. And most of us have seen black widow spiders. They do relatively well around human habitation. Nice thing about them is they're also a really shy spider. You disturb a black widow spider web and it hides. Brown widow spiders also in this group. We're starting to see them more and more in Alabama. Actually, they're native to Europe, but they've been introduced to the United States. Solon Dixon, the little outdoor gym area, was full of brown widow spiders. And I brought one back with me, and I think it's now in my office somewhere. I looked for it tonight, and it's not in its thing anymore. I may have a brown widow spider in my office. But they make these spiky egg cases. But I think they're a really pretty spider. And they also have the hourglass on them. And again, they're also shy. You mess with their web, and they go and hide in the corner. But I wouldn't want to be bitten by either one of those. Also in this group is the common house spider. And again, this is the spider, the little brown spider with the blobby body and the messy web that's in the corner of a house or in a garage is probably going to be this guy. They're pretty much everywhere. So very common spider. And then the crab spiders, ambush predators, sit in flowers. They look like crabs. It's kind of where they get their name from. And they just sit and ambush things. Okay, so that is our spiders. Here's a couple books. This one was by Mike Howell, who many of you know, and then Ron Jenkins, who passed in, I think, 2007. Was faculty here at Samford. That all happened right before I got here. This is a good book. I like to use this book when I need to identify spiders. This is a large book that just came out. It's a pretty thick field guide, about this thick. Relatively new, just published, I think, about a year, 2 years ago. And then this is a little field guide. Where is mine? Where did it go? This spiders of, okay. I guess it just, anything else is blurred except for a person. This is it's the right size book to throw in your backpack. The Spiders of Carolinas, and pretty much everything that's in there is what we have here in Alabama. So when I take my students out and we do Spider Lab in the fall, I usually throw this one in my backpack so I can show them pictures of things. There's some good websites out there. Bug Guide, I love Bug Guide for spiders and all things bug. Spider Rules has tons of photos of spiders on there. So every once in a while I'll go on there, but usually I'm over on Bug Guide. And that is the end. So folks have questions, we can do questions. I see a chat.
Thank you very much, Kristin. That was wonderful. You were very you were answering all my questions that were popping up. I think
Okay.
you've done this before, and you're doing a great job of foreshadowing what we might ask. There was one question in the chat. Linda asked about what she referred to as the giant house spider. Where does the giant house spider fit into these?
Linda, can you expound on?
Well, I mean, I've had them in my house, and they're typically not web builders. They're more like, I'm guessing, sort of a wolf spider. They're really fast, and to me, they're huge. I mean, they're probably quarter, $50 size spiders, and they just appear periodically. And I've tried looking them up, and the best that I can come up with is what has been termed a giant house spider. So I don't know.
But it's not in a web?
No, it's just like they go, suddenly you'll see one on the floor and it will go flying. Or you'll see it, you'll see maybe it on the wall, and but they are fast. They are so fast. They don't live very long in my house if I can help it, because they're very large, and I do not want them on me or extremely near me. Spiders that live in corners are fine, but I don't want these running across me because they're really big. And like I said, that's kind of what I have found in my Googling and trying to look at stuff.
Okay. Because nothing is immediately coming to mind. Let me Google giant house spider.
Yeah, I don't know. They're brown. They're just kind of, I guess they're sort of like, what was the one you were talking about out in the kind of the undergrowth that you find this time of year?
You mean like the
I can't think which one it was now.
The very first ones, or near the first ones?
I don't know. I don't remember. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, because nothing is really coming.
Let's see if I can.
Maybe Kristin, you can get back with her on that one.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find something. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send me something or a picture, and then I'll see what I can do with that. Because there's nothing that immediately, if we were in like the tropics, I would have different answers for you.
Sure.
But there's nothing that comes to mind for here. In like the Bahamas and the Caribbean, they have these giant huntsman spiders, and with their legs, they're about that big across.
Yeah, they're
And
not.
usually they're on the sides of buildings.
Yeah, they're not that big, thank goodness, but they're big enough that I'm.
Okay.
In
Well,
our,
they're probably not dangerous because they're
No,
not a
they're
black
not.
widow or brown recluse.
No, they're not dangerous. Other than I just don't want them on me.
in our,
Spider,
in our
if they're
our
up there, and
chat room, what Dr. Gibbons suggested maybe it's a type of trapdoor spider, and Dr. Haddock either was quoting something from his Hawaiian trip, or is that cuckoo?
Oh, yeah.
Takinia? Help me out, Randy.
Yeah, I know which one he's talking about now.
Cucocania.
Cucocania. All right. Not familiar with that, but anyway. Any other some other questions from the audience?
I do want to say that one of our
southern house spider.
very, in fact, I think it was our very first meeting for Friends of Shades Creek was about spiders. And I'm not sure we've had spiders since. So Kristin, this really is great that you were able to do the program tonight, and we can talk about spiders again. Dr. Powell and Dr. Jenkins, of course, were our first speakers.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Jenkins passed, I don't know, right the year before I got here, and then I was the replacement for Mike Howell. So I guess the circle of life.
You've kept it going. You've kept the interest in spiders going.
I have a question. If it's okay. I was wondering, do spiders have a season? Are they more numerous sometime of year? It seemed to me like they're more numerous in late summer or early fall. But that's just when I notice them, especially orb weavers.
Yes, that's because it's the large females that are out there getting ready to, lay their eggs and reproduce, and they're all at their full maximum body size. So a lot of our spiders overwinter in their egg sacs. Most spiders live for a year in our tarantulas, and there's a few spiders that are exceptions, but most of our normal everyday spiders only live for about a year. So in the spring, they're going to be small juveniles, and then throughout the summer they're going to mature, and then fall really is kind of spider season. They've been there all along, but that's when we notice them.
Do spiders seem does climate change, warmer, more temperate winters, would we expect range expansions? Will tropical species take hold in Alabama more likely?
That is certainly possible. And then some of our spiders that are just known from the southeast will continue to move north. That's kind of what the golden silk spider is doing. It used to be pretty much a southeastern thing, but now people are getting it up into, Kentucky, Indiana. It's gotten pretty good ways up the East Coast. I haven't looked at that range map in a while, but yes, things will move north. Yeah, distributions will shift with the changes in climate we have.
I saw with Randy and LaTanya on the call. I just want to point out the long-jawed spiders. That's the one that commonly shows up in canoes. I've not been on a canoe trip that there haven't been long-jawed spiders that have fallen in the canoe and either freak people out or go for a ride until the boat's turned upside down.
Call them tree spiders. And people do actually jump out of their canoes in the middle of the Cahaba after they've gone under trees and get a lot of those tree spiders and long-jawed spiders in them in their boat. They jump out of their boat to get away from the spider. It's funny.
And if you think about the name, the Tetranatha, that means four jaws. And that's because the males have sort of an extra spine on their chelicera to hold the female jaws open while the pedipalps are trying to pass on the sperm. So the Tetranatha, four jaws, refers to the males, and that extra set of little uh, spines to try to keep themselves from being eaten by the female.
Oh Lord, spiders have adapted. I have a question. With those tree spiders, they don't have the mouth bits to bite us, do they?
So yes,
Okay.
yes, they have chelicerae, and I suppose they could bite you.
Well, if I may
They're
interject,
not going. So are you thinking like the giant orb weavers?
No, I guess it's the long jawed. Randy, do you know what I'm talking about?
I
The
do, and the long jaws that fall in your boat are mostly females, and their jaws are so long that they can't get enough leverage to actually penetrate with a bite. Spiders with shorter jaws are
Mhm.
able to have the leverage to go ahead and penetrate your skin, but the long jaw spiders can't penetrate your skin.
Mhm. And even like a black widow spider, the only way you're going to get bitten by one of those is if it accidentally gets pinned up against your skin with like clothing, or you've had a pair of shoes that's been in the garage forever and you know they've put a nest in there, you accidentally grab one doing yard work and they're kind of just up underneath the shrubberies in good place, or if you're moving like a bunch of bricks and things that have been sitting out. But yeah, so you kind of have to work at it. But most of them, you just, as soon as you touch them, everybody runs away. None of our spiders here are aggressive.
And one thing that people, I mean, probably most of us realize, but people are notorious. Everybody wants to like sweep the cobwebs off their houses, spray, whatever. But remember that wrens and titmice, spiders are one of their primary food sources. And so leave your cobwebs up. I mean, granted, they kind of get in the way. You have to sweep stuff down a bit, occasionally. But if you leave them up on your house, you'll see the titmice and the wrens coming to the windowsills to eat the spiders. And they also, and as well as I think hummingbirds, use the silk from spider webs in their nests.
Mhm.
So they're, don't be too tidy. It's okay if people see, spider webs on your.
Yeah, that's not a problem at my house.
Well, mine either, but I have friends that whenever they come over, they want to clean my windows for me. And I'm like, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but no, thank you.
Any other questions? So I've got just an observation or question. So some of those orb weavers that we see in our yards that build a nest every night, big baskets, but there are times where they are attached to the edge of the house and to a tree, and they're not 2 or 3 feet away. They're 6, 12, 10 feet away, that they've got, I call the guide wires or whatever. How in the world does a spider make the first, the anchor? How does it anchor at 4 points on the ground, on a tree, on the house, and something that seemingly is an insurmountable distance for them to go up and attach?
I am not 100% sure how that. I don't know if they do a down, up, and over. I really don't know. I mean, some they might be able to jump, but I do not have a good answer for you. I can make one up, but I don't have a good answer for you.
Or even just walking hiking trails, you get them across 3 to 6 feet across a trail, and it seems to me pretty miraculous engineering feat to have been conscious enough to know where to anchor and build a web.
I sometimes wonder if they balloon or do something similar to ballooning to, get across those larger spaces.
Bands, yeah,
Yeah.
or start high and work their way low.
Yeah, I don't know. But I've had the same question. It's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
Yes, I do not have a good answer.
More study is needed,
Yes, or more reading on my part.
or more reading.
Well, it's 10 after 8, and I, being respectful of Dr. Bakkegard's time and everyone's time, I'll throw it out there if there's a last question or two. Anybody's observations? Awesome. Thank you very much, Kristin. It was a fascinating talk. Again, I certainly see a lot of your, that was a quick question for you. So it sounds like, looks like cameras, photographs are our friend for documenting spiders. How do are spiders preserved in collections? To me, when they're so fragile and they dry up and stuff like that. A butterfly I can understand pinning, and a big tarantula you can see pinning. How do you store and collect these tiny spiders that are so fragile and seem to wilt upon death?
They just go in a vial of ethanol.
So everything submerged in liquid.
Yes. So, I mean, these aren't
You're
spiders. There we go.
blurry.
I guess I have to take the blurring thing off. But yeah, you just use a vial with 70% ethanol in there. And that's how you store your spider specimens.
Well, thank you very much. We certainly do appreciate the conversation tonight. And in lieu of our, we won't have a program in December. We'll have a gathering at Henry Hughes's home.
Or we may have a short program.
Or may have a short program. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll send out a notice on that.
Yeah. But we look forward to having everyone there, and it's always fun time with always great food.
And the date again on that gathering is
December
December the 12th. December the 12th.
It'll be the second Thursday and December the 12th.
What time?
Oh.
Henry, have we decided on what time we're crashing at your home?
We haven't talked about that.
We'll get that out. I suspect it'll be in the evening. Is that correct? Six or seven?
Is that usually 6, is it?
6, I believe so.
Yeah, I think we
Six
usually
is
meet at 6 or 6:30, something like that. So we'll let you know. Sorry we didn't have that information pinned down.
After work and before bedtime. How about that? We'll do it.
It'll be good. It'll be fun. Thank you, Henry and Lois.